fitness is such an integral part in mental health. I believe that a big part of our mental health epidemic right now in our country is actually a movement epidemic.
You're listening to Freight Famous, presented by Rose Rocket, bringing you the people that make trucking move. From behind the scenes into the limelight. Here's your host, Justin Bailie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Freight Famous, a podcast produced by Rose Rocket. New episodes of Freight Famous will be released about twice a month. On this podcast, we talk with guests about how they build, scale, and automate their trucking businesses. I'm your host, Justin Bailie, co-founder at Rose Rocket, and I'm super excited to introduce my guest today, Hope Zvara. From yoga teacher to trucking fitness expert, Hope has helped change thousands of lives over the last 20 years using her simple step-by-step strategies and what she calls her, quote, toolbox. As the CEO Mother Trucker Yoga, Hope is seen as a leader in the trucking industry for health and fitness. Hope has been featured on the PBS show Startup and other national publications showing drivers how they can go from unhealthy and out of options to feeling good again with her unique, easy-to-follow approach to health, fitness, and life while living over the road as a trucker. Hope, thank you for being here. I'm really I just want to say I start. It's not to suggest that I'm not excited to have every guest, but I start every one. It's written down for me here. I read from it, and sometimes as people are listening, these can be a little bit clunky. And I will say I don't practice these, as most people can tell when I'm reading the bio. So it always starts with I'm super excited, and I read that just because I'm a good student that way. But the reality is I am actually really excited because I've heard about this. I've heard about you. And I just have a bunch of questions. So thank you for being here to help at least quench my curiosity thirst.
You are so welcome. I love conversations like the one we are about to have. And let's just dig right in.
Okay, how do you get to here? So this is, when I think of trucking, I don't think of yoga. And how does somebody go from where you were as a yoga instructor to where we're sitting having a conversation on a podcast, really, focused on the transportation industry and transportation professionals?
Yeah, well, I did not get my start in trucking. That's usually the first question people always ask me. And I did get my start in the yoga space, really looking for a solution for myself. I am in recovery. I've been in recovery for, almost 10, 12 years, something around there. I struggled with food, drugs, alcohol, just really struggling to figure out myself, depression, anxiety. And I don't want to say my family gave up on me because they didn't, but it was kind of like, I don't know what else to do for her. And I was working as a teenager, as a lifeguard at the time. And one of my colleagues looked at me and said, "Hey, you look like someone that would practice yoga." And in that moment, in my brain, something just tripped. And I went home and got on the internet, dial up at the time, and found a place that had yoga in a neighboring town. And I showed up. I was half the age of everyone else in the class, but something happened that night in that yoga class. And when I rolled up my mat and I walked out of the room and I looked back at that classroom for the first time, and I couldn't even remember how long, my mind was clear. I was calm. I wasn't riddled with, these thoughts of you're dumb, you're stupid, you're a nobody, you never can do anything right. Like I felt nothing. I felt nothing and everything all at the same time. And so that Wednesday night yoga class became my weekly ritual of second chances. And while those second chances eventually got me into recovery along with some outpatient treatment, and yoga became a lifeline for me. And I recognized there was a lot of other people struggling like I was. And so I opened up a yoga studio. I became a yoga teacher. And then a few years later, I opened up a state-approved yoga school here in my hometown in Wisconsin. And I started helping people in pain, in various types of pain, mentally, physically, emotionally, just like me. But I always felt like that wasn't what my plan really was. I had a successful yoga studio. I paid all my bills. I got to raise my kids. I had a good life, but I felt like this wasn't where I belonged. And then about 6 years ago, I was in a transition. I was thinking maybe more corporate yoga was my thing, trying to dabble in some different stuff because I kind of felt like the yoga studio space was like kind of met its expiration date. And I was at a local business mixer here in my small hometown in Wisconsin. And I start talking to this guy, never met him before. And I'm trying to pitch him corporate yoga. And he looks at me and says, do you have anything for truck drivers? Like in the cab of the truck. And I think I'm funny sometimes. And I threw up my hands and I said, mother trucker yoga. Just trying to get a rise out of this guy, make a uncomfortable conversation a little bit more fun. He doesn't even skip a beat, sticks his hand out and says, that's brilliant. You want to go into business together? I met this guy and 20 minutes later, we're shaking on a business deal.
Oh, I love that.
He calls me the next morning and says, well, partner, are we going to do this? And we did some research in the space. And 4 months later, we built a business from scratch, we meaning me. And a year later, I bought him out of the business. And in the last 6 years, I have impacted in various ways and capacities more than 200,000 drivers, showing them how they can change lanes in their health and fitness, all with small, simple changes. And that's why we're here today.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, so that's I love that. That is everything that speaks to me in terms of an entrepreneurial journey and sort of following, putting one foot in front of the other and just not knowing necessarily where things are going, but just going. I want to go back to something you'd said about you were feeling like things weren't working. Do you associate when it means, sorry, things weren't working, but you said things had gotten stale. And I'm saying this from a place of knowledge and empathy where, I too get bored. I too get, sort of the need to, it's almost like you desire, you said it wasn't the thing, it wasn't your calling or your purpose, or it wasn't satisfying the creative muscle anymore, because it's kind of like, it was a little bit rote at that point, most likely. And I wonder about like, how did you, this is a bit of an abstract question, but like, how did you know that it wasn't satisfying? And I'm saying this to sort of to pick on the sort of the entrepreneurs that are listening. I think I'll go through this period where it's like things are good, and sometimes I think people can look at the entrepreneur and say, you're just almost like you can't settle. You have this problem with like being content, and content is there is wisdom in that, right? So it's like, and I think a lot of people who don't get it, like, so I'm just trying to maybe like help the entrepreneur.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is that thing, and how did you know?
So I think someone said something to me a few months ago, and I want to start off with this. There's a difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. And a business owner often has a craft, and they're like, well, I'm good at it, I should start a business. And that's it. That's kind of where it ends. An entrepreneur is always inventing themselves, is always looking ahead, is always trying to expand and grow, and like, how can I be bigger and more? And that's the bucket I fall into. And I think that's the bucket a lot of your listeners fall into. For me, when I started my yoga studio back in 2006, there was a part of my little brain that's saying, not little, but a part of my brain that was small saying, this is not the end game for you. This is a stepping stone. Now, that stepping stone lasted almost 15 years of owning and operating a yoga studio, but that was never where I felt like that was where I belonged. Some people, that's their goal, to own a brick and mortar yoga business or studio or just business in general. I knew that was never my end game, but I didn't know when that game was going to end. And then about, I would say, 4 years ago, something along those lines. Actually, be more than that. I got to think reverse. Probably 6 or 7 years ago, I was like getting this itch, like, ooh, I want to be done with this. I was kind of sick of it. I hated showing up for work. I was annoyed with my clients, and I loved them, but it was an internal thing. Mm-hmm. I knew that expiration date was going down, 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 down. It was a very internal thing that wasn't going away. And so I had to make a decision. I could keep doing this and just hire more staff and whatever, and then just kind of like be grateful, right? That's what we're told. You should be so grateful for what you have. But it was like slowly killing me. And I just kept praying, like, God, please show me something. What am I supposed to do next? What am I supposed to do next? What am I supposed to do next? And I'm a person where it's like, when something is put on my plate, I'll leap and figure it out as I'm falling. And like, hopefully get a parachute or find a branch or something. Like, I'm actually okay with that. And when I had that conversation with my former business partner, a stranger from Illinois, I'm in Wisconsin, he was here on a business meeting, randomly showed up at this event, wasn't supposed to be there. I came on a whim with my husband, wasn't supposed to be there. And this idea was thrown out kind of on a joke. I jumped. And I think for a lot of people listening, that's how some of your best ideas are formed. But because it's a joke, because it's just this random thing, there's a part of our brains that think that doesn't make any sense. Like, you didn't go to school for that. You don't know nothing about that. And that when you think too much about that, you get in your own way. And I look back 6 years ago, that was the best and hardest decision I ever made, was to say, I'm not going to do the yoga thing anymore. And I'm going to jump into this trucking space and offer my expertise. It was like the sky opened when he said that to me that night. And I saw how I could serve drivers in a way that they weren't being served. Because what was currently in the trucking space was, hey, you should sign up for my app and let's do 500 push-ups together. Like, that only works for people that, one, are already fit, two, don't have shoulders blown out, backs hurting, and are struggling with obesity. Like, it's just not practical. And the other part that was there was like, follow this meal plan, eat these foods. Well, what driver has access to that stuff? It was so unrealistic. I was like, wow, I can help. And my background, my dad is not a truck driver. He was a sewer pipe layer. He was the guy 80 feet down in the hole, doing things most people would never want to do. And so I came from a blue collar environment. My neighbor was a truck driver, grew up in that space. These were my people. It was like, I just felt like, yes. And so if you're listening and you've had that feeling, but everything else doesn't make sense, people are like, what are you doing? If you can stay the course, that is a true entrepreneur.
That's nice. Beauty. Okay, so as the serendipitous meeting occurs at this Chamber of Commerce, I'm picturing sort of this like kind of event, right?
You want to know what it was really called?
What's that?
So I live in Wisconsin, and southern Wisconsin, in a small town. It was a brandy old fashioned mixer.
Okay, there you go.
Business owners. That's what it was.
Yeah. So also like, the expectation is 50 people come. It's actually 21, but you end up getting, you meet this person and this thing goes here. So you're into it. Sounds like the partnership, when it was like you sort of made reference to this, you kind of moved through it quicker. Other partner falls off. It's all you. So what were sort of some of the initial, how did the business start in terms of a go-to-market? Because I'm very curious, like, how do people hear about this day zero? And then maybe we can kind of walk through the journey of kind of where this ended today. So what was that first go-to-market motion, maybe like big client, big aha moment as you sort of launched into the world?
Yeah, great question. So when we first started, my partner was in trucking. I was in the yoga space, course development. Like, I had created trainings. Like, I had done all of that stuff already in my yoga space. So I knew those types of things. He knew the trucking world. And so when we first started, I knew I wanted short, easy videos. I wanted to show drivers things they could do all in the truck. Like, I'm really good at breaking down exercises and showing people how to do them in their environment. Like, that's my expertise in my craft. And I understand the body really well in layman's terms. So that translation is there. And so I was like, okay, I could see this. So we created a database of about 200 videos, all like anywhere between a minute and like 5 minutes. We had longer ones, kind of more workout style.
And sorry, you're just like filming these in your existing studio, or you're just doing
No.
Like...
So we, this is where my OCD kicks in. And I'm like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something right and all the way. We got connected with a trucking outfit that let us use at the time, it was a 2018 Freightliner, brand new. We rented out a space up in Minnesota, got the videographer from Food Network, the audiographer from NBC. Like, we had pulled every connection possible to get these like top line people. Don't ask me how this happened. I was just like,
the how is none of your business, right?
Yes. And so brought in all these people because I'm like, I want to do this right. I want this to feel, I wanted the look and feel for drivers so that they felt like when they were watching this stuff, they mattered. Like, it wasn't just like, hey, here's my 2006 cell phone. I'm going to shoot you some videos. I wanted them to feel like they are exceptional because they are. So we shot all these videos. We shot about 30 hours of content in 2.5 days, which was a lot. If you know anything about video, like, it was like 6 a.m. to like 12 p.m., about 12 a.m., 11 every single day for those 2 days. It was a lot. Had them all edited, put them in a database, accessible for drivers, kind of like a membership site where they can watch these videos. And that's how we started. And a couple of months in, recognized that in order for me to get myself out there, because I was a nobody knew who I was. Fitness and health was still very like, oh yeah, we care about it, but yeah, we're not interested. Like,
yeah, and
that
sorry,
was
what
the
year is
mentality.
this? Yeah, you tell me that. What year is this? This is?
So it's 2000 and let me think, in 2017, it was like fall 2017, winter 2018.
Got
So
it.
that's
Okay.
kind of when this incubation period started.
Okay.
And I recognized early on that the image of health and fitness and trucking was still one that people were supportive of, but when it came down to company owners, they liked to say they were for it on the surface, but sorry to be the whistleblower, they didn't actually want to do anything about it. Like, or what they were doing was super lame. Drivers were not using it, but it checked a box.
I should say that, yeah.
So that was like, okay, I need to come up with a different approach because this isn't working. And so I spent the whole first year building proof of concept and really just getting this idea out there about health and fitness, or at least my take on it. Because there was a few small players in there, but I knew what they were doing, drivers weren't using. And so I went to all the media outlets. I went to all of what I call support companies. So in trucking, not a company that has a fleet, but a company that has a product or a service that supports drivers. I just call them a support company. And so I went and started making connections with all these companies and saying, hey, without drivers, you and I aren't in business. Like, I know driver health is important. I know you care about it. Let me help you show people that you care about it. And I started offering my services, blogging, writing, doing videos, writing for the newsletters, doing things like that to build awareness about what I was doing and how my approach was different than what was out there. And it worked. It worked. I started getting more and more traction. I started building relationships with drivers. At that same time, I had a small group of drivers that I was doing a beta test with our programming, that they were taking this and doing these videos and giving me feedback. And so I built relationship with some well-known drivers because of that, and was like, okay, what I built works. Like, it's helping them. I had drivers of all ages. So this is all kind of happening all at the same time. And I just keep building and putting myself out there. And I love speaking. I've been speaking for a long time, writing. So putting myself out there was not an issue. Some people, they're good at something, but they're not good at communicating it. That wasn't a problem for me. So that's been on for about a year plus. And then I was like, okay, I think I have enough data now. I think I have enough information. I'm going to go back out to trucking companies and see if they will want to bite.
So just to kind of pause, to kind of bring this in. So you've got basically, you start with, here's an idea, let's do it tomorrow morning. You start tomorrow morning. You bring together a pretty robust and high-end team to film your initial content library inside this truck. You then take that and you try to get into the hands of what we'll call it sort of driver influencers. Like, you be strategic about it. Go to different, as you call it, sort of service people who also would provide services to the same market in which you were targeting, and try to create some sort of co-op initiative with them, and probably all sorts of shapes and sizes, I'm imagining, to varying degrees of success or otherwise as well. That kind of goes on for a period of time, and then you build what you consider to be enough critical mass that we've got the product. You're kind of ready. You're out of beta and you're ready to kind of go into 1.0 of Mother Trucker. Is that fair? And what 1.0 looks like to you is now selling this, monetizing it in a meaningful way in terms of selling it to, and I don't mean to cheapen it by saying that, I'm just trying to be like practical in the approach. And then by selling it to corporate, you sell it to corporate, large trucking companies to buy this almost health and wellness package for their drivers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And through that process of trying to go to companies, what I recognized was that wasn't my best play for a couple of reasons. And we don't have to get into all the details, but many of them were using programming, or they had a wellness coordinator, but no program. And it was still a box to check for them. Yeah. That was the obstacle I was up against. And I'm like, okay, what's my goal here?
Yeah, you're in the nice to have category at that point, which is very difficult to sell, right? Yeah.
Yes. And it's like, well, if you don't have healthy drivers, it doesn't matter if you have a brand new truck. It doesn't matter, how many hours a week they work. If they're sick all the time, if they are not passing their physicals, you don't have a trucking company, hate to tell you this,
Yeah.
but they, I mean, and I'm generalizing,
Yep.
and I know for people that are listening, if you own a company, you might not be that person, but I'm generalizing.
Yep.
They just didn't care. They
Yep.
just didn't care. And so I was like, okay, what's my goal, Hope? And I think for people listening, you're starting a company, you got to get really clear and continually revisit why you're doing what you're doing and what your big goal is, because it's so easy to get distracted and frustrated and kind of rerouted. And about 2 years in, I kind of made the executive decision for myself, was like, I don't know if that's my goal, to have big companies on my platform. Although it would be cool, it's a lot of babysitting, it's a lot of legwork. And do I want to have to continually convince somebody something works that they don't really want to have? And my answer was no. And so I kind of pivoted again. And I think that's, again, the entrepreneurial ingenuity is like, you are always reinventing and evolving and moving forward versus being a business owner where it's like, I'm good at this, I stay in this box, this is as far as I go. And so I reinvented again, and I was like, okay, I think I have something here. And I just started doing a lot more of the influencer stuff on social media and email, started building bigger relationships with other companies that weren't trucking companies, and started expanding my services and doing more consulting for trucking companies that had wellness programs, but drivers weren't using. A few years ago, I did, I don't know, gosh, probably 24 and over the course of the year, kind of initial consults with big companies. I'm not going to name them, but I'm talking like some of the ones we all know, if you hear the name. And what I discovered was they had these really robust wellness programs, but upon talking with their wellness coordinators, drivers weren't using them. Mm-hmm. And it became really clear to me, I could consult these people. They don't want to use my program, fine. But I know exactly why your drivers aren't using them. And in 30 minutes, although I'm not going to tell you 30 minutes, I could figure out what it is and help you fix it. So I kind of pivoted my services for the trucking companies. And if they wanted my stuff, great. If not, here's how I can help you with what you have. And building product on the side simultaneously. I'm a creator by trade. And I started creating pain relief creams, and we have a massage gun out. We started doing all these things that now are sold in truck stops. And it was like all these things I love to do over the last 20 years of being an entrepreneur kind of all came full circle in the trucking space of like, they felt so random previously. And this was just another pivot for me because, again, my big goal for drivers is to help them in the health and wellness space. Help them live higher quality lives, reduce pain, stop with the sedentary lifestyle, small, simple changes. And it doesn't matter the package of how I can offer it. It was the fact that I wanted to actually make a real difference in the industry. And once I stepped back from being so glued to one idea, which was, program for trucking companies, must do that, I saw that there were so many opportunities beyond that to serve this industry. And that's really what I've been doing since then. It's consulting. Drivers can sign on and use our platform. It's an app now, individually if they want to. Companies can sign on if they like. I've been working with CDL schools and then really building out this entire wellness product line for drivers that has really just taken off for me, and selling it to truck stops and travel centers across the country.
So, okay, there's tons there that they want to go into.
I know. I was like, how are we just going to go from
No, it's
here?
good. It's that's a lot. Okay, so we got a whole show. We have more. Yeah, you just gave me an entire show of content in that one piece there. So, okay, let me unpack my own thoughts on this one for a quick second. So, as you are, so much there. Okay, social media. So when you were between, okay, so I think the thing I want to compliment you on or draw attention to, which I think is so important to what you just said there, is that when you become a truly mission-driven company, it's amazing how those types of like when you were just focused on the mission, and I think I think you're told, like, it takes one to know one, so I think you're in line with this. It's like, it will work. It will work. The things will flow if you're open to it and you are leading by mission. And I think what I'm hearing, it's like, and I'm going to use simple language and broad strokes just to kind of summarize it, but it's like the corporate angle was almost akin to sort of selling out, if you will, selling out the mission, right? It's like, we're going to do this thing, we're going to monetize it, make money, but it wasn't inspiring and it didn't necessarily satisfy the mission. And then when you kind of moved into that, then all these things started to really, really happen, it sounds like. And so
100%.
and I guess so a couple questions, just like tactically speaking. So, okay, corporate's not working. Totally get, like, as you explain that, it's like, I can feel I've done the same, not the same serve, but I have sold nice to have things into large corporations, or attempted to, and I've so been down there. I can so relate and like viscerally feel what that experience is like, and all the sort of the little false hope bullets that come up, and realizing that this thing will just never go anywhere. Like I can meet with them for the next 5 years and feel good about every meeting, but this will never go anywhere, right? And it's hard to sort of, when you're an optimist, like I know, like I've known you for all of half an hour, like you are, like I am. Sometimes it's hard to have those truthful conversations with ourselves. But anyway, I digress. When you started thinking about social media and started thinking about influencing, was this you just like, did you hire somebody? Did you just learn it on your own? Like, how did you, and I don't need all the nuts and bolts, but largely, how did you think about doing that? Because I think it's something that a lot of people think about doing, but it's overwhelming. It's technically challenging. You don't maybe understand it. Like, how did you actually do that?
So the whole premise of everything I do in life, Justin, is small and simple. And so whether I'm teaching a driver, whether I'm working with a business consult, whether I'm doing something in my personal or professional life, I always believe in the small little chunking down concept. And so when I started doing the social media stuff, and granted, this was like Instagram was still just photos, you guys. It wasn't like reels, like none of that stuff existed. I was like, where are my drivers? And so I picked one platform, and I was on Facebook because I knew that that's where they were. A lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, the mistake they make with social is they go where they like. They go where they're comfortable. Well, if your audience isn't there, that doesn't help you. It's not about you. It's all about the client for me. It's all about the audience. It's never about me. And so I was like, okay, they're there. I'm going to go all in on Facebook, and I'm going to connect with them there. And I just started putting out videos. I started posting content. I started asking questions. I started building relationships, real relationships. I think that's the other thing is I don't ever really call myself an influencer, but I build relationships, and I want to actually help people. And so off social media, I was doing the same thing, but I think one of the things I hear from drivers and just people that I know in general is I'm the same on social media as I am off. Like what you see is what you get. There is no different Hope once the camera goes off. Like I am the same person. And so I think for those of you that want to do social, when you see an influencer, you see someone with all these likes and follows and gone viral, like if you're feeling like that, I could never be that, in your mind, what you're thinking is I couldn't be them. But you don't want to be them. You want to be you. And so I recognized that really early on. And I do a lot of speaking, and I do a lot of things that are already prior to previous to this. And I was like, I just got to be myself. Not everyone's going to like me. There are going to be haters. There are going to be people that don't like what I have to say. They don't like how I look, or, that I'm smaller framed. Well, dude, I can't help it. It's the body God gave me. Like this is just me. And I think developing that mentality of I'm here to serve, I'm here to help, I'm going to be authentic, I'm going to share my knowledge. I make mistakes. I say stupid stuff. I might post something that doesn't make sense to you or has a bad angle or the audio is bad. Dude, I'm just real, just like you. And showing up that way consistently on social is the way to build traction, period. I'm not a rule follower. I have this tendency in life where when someone says it's a certain way, there's like this internal revolting that comes out of me that's like, oh, well, then I'm not going to do it that way. So I didn't hire a social media team. I was a small company in the beginning. I had $0. I was still running my yoga studio for the first year and a half because Mother Trucker was making $0. Like it was my money. I had put in this with my partner, like no money, no nothing, like nothing coming in. And so I had to do a lot of it myself. And I think one of the values as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, when you do something yourself, at least in the beginning, you really understand and develop an appreciation for how things go, but it's really hard to direct someone else to do something for you if you have no idea how to do it yourself. Yeah. And that is how I run my business. Before I hand something off, I need a basic understanding. You need to either teach me or I need to figure it out so then I can better help you help me, because I want my drivers, my clients, my customers to never feel like, I don't think that's Hope. Yeah. That doesn't sound like her. And I don't know about you, Justin, but when I go to some people's social media and I've met them in person, I'm like, that is not at all what you're like. That's not at all how you sound, because they're not the ones writing it. And so social media is actually one thing I won't give up. It's actually one thing I won't allow someone else to write for me, because I believe so deeply in the line of integrity and authenticity and transparency. I think that is the one thing people shouldn't let go of. Let go of all the other stuff, but you shouldn't let go of being the face on social, or at least having your hand in writing your content, because people are smart nowadays. They can't have the wool pulled over their eyes as much as they could a couple of years ago. That is the last thing you should be automating and letting someone else do for you. And I think that's part of what's contributed to my success in the industry.
Great tip. Love the product line extension. So obvious when you say it and makes perfect sense. And wonderful outcome. But I want to go back to like pre that. So let's get tactical for a second. So I'm kind of aware of general fitness, like you said, maybe some of the legacy concepts around truck driver fitness and what these things are. And I've always thought about, like, because I think this is hard, and whether you drive a truck or whether you just are trying to be healthier and more active. Going from, like, inertia is your greatest enemy, right? Like, how do you move something? What are some tips to, like, because I think largely from my own just personal experiences and watching those around me and having kids and watching them do, their things, it's like momentum is so powerful in activity and exercise and healthy habits. I guess I'm mostly interested in, how do you go from 0 to 1 in this? What are some of the things that you're helping people just take that first step? Now, this is more of a literal statement around first step.
I love that you said 0 to 1 and not 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And so first things first is to decide what the level of your commitment is. There's a reason why New Year's resolutions, I think it's like at 5% now, why less than 5% of people follow through after February. That's 28 days or, 30 some, 60 some days in, 2 months in, because they're biting off more they can chew. Their level of commitment is going from the couch to bodybuilder in like a few short weeks. And then they give up and they actually revert back even further from where they were. So this idea of 0 to 1, I call it the 1% better rule, is what are you willing to commit to at the very basic minimum? So instead of, I'm going to buy a gym membership, go to the gym 5 days a week, never eat sugar, never drink caffeine, I'm going to go full keto, gluten-free, dairy-free, wheat-free. Pretty much I'm just going to live on air for the rest of my life. Instead of going that space,
right?
How about every Monday morning, you're going to make it a point to yourself to do that one stretch you saw Hope do on Facebook every single morning, just Monday morning. Or you're going to walk 1 day a week on your 30-minute break, just as many laps as you can around your truck. And that's it. Low commitment. But there's something that happens in the brain when we actually follow through what we say we're going to do.
Yeah.
It's like this boost of endorphins and serotonin and dopamine come about, and we feel good from it. And it makes us want to continue. And so the habit is formed now. And then we just slowly expand the habit from there, which is often the opposite approach, where everyone else is telling you, you got to do this, you got to be on this meal plan, you have to do all these things. And that's scary for people. And there's actually a part of our brain when we're told to stop doing something, we actually inadvertently hold on even tighter. It's actually a part of our brain. It's not on purpose. It just happens. It's our need to self-preserve and protect. And so instead of taking away, I often just tell drivers to add. If you don't want to get rid of your soda and you don't want to get rid of your coffee, cool. Like, I drink coffee too. It's okay. But how about instead 1 bottle of water in the morning? That's it. Just 1 bottle of water. I don't care what you do the rest of the day. Just 1 bottle of water. If you've never exercised a day in your life, how about just 5 minutes? Give me 5 minutes. If 5 minutes is too much, how about one stretch every time you fill up with fuel that actually looks like you're tying your shoe, so no one's even going to know. And just commit to that through hell or high water. That's the 0 to 1. And then when you're like, I'm doing it all the time, just like brushing your teeth, Justin, like, I can't get up and not brush my teeth. Like, it's a habit. I have to do it. It's automatic. And then I'm going to floss, and then I'm going to use mouthwash, and then I'm going to do tongue scraping. But that didn't all happen right away. And so what's the one thing you're willing to commit to at a low minimum through hell or high water? Make that become automatic. The second step from there, 1 to 2, now is, what can I either do that more frequently, like every day at 9 a.m. or every day or every other day, whatever it is, or can I add something else to it? and just continue to build the level of commitment where it doesn't feel so scary for people. And when people first see this programming and this plan and approach that I have, a lot of people laugh and they're just like, that's it. And I'm like, well, this is the whole problem. This is why everything else that people have been telling you to do that doesn't work. This is why your trucking company has this big, robust health program and 0 drivers are doing it. This is the problem, is because it's overcommitted. It's too much. It's too scary. It's 0 to 9,000. Like, we have to pare it down. And when you do that, this is why the success rate for my drivers is so high. This is why drivers stay with me 18 months plus, because it's something that they can actually do.
And what type of, how do I want to word this? What type of results? No, that's the wrong way to put it. How are they experiencing benefits from this?
Yeah. Great question. So the drivers that continue to show up for themselves and are doing something like drinking that bottle of water every morning, getting out and walking for 5 to 15 minutes every day, doing a couple of stretches. Last time I checked, when we get into those 70s, 80s, and 90s, it's not because we're not strong enough that we feel like we can't live life. It's because really we're just inflexible. We're not mobile enough, and we can fix that now. And so that's really the approach we take. But for a lot of our drivers, weight loss is a side effect to making other healthy changes in life. So one thing you won't see Mother Trucker Yoga do is promote weight loss, because I don't believe weight loss is ever the goal or ever the real problem, but that there's other things going on. So a lot of drivers, they notice increase in mobility. Idella Hansen, some of you listening might know who she is. She was one of my very first drivers that took my program and is still with me today. As an older woman, she was experiencing arthritis in her hands, knees, hips, a lot of stiffness, really was achy at the end of the day. These small little stretches and movements that I had her doing regularly a lot while even driving, she noticed that was a decrease in overall pain. She could move more freely, get in and out of her truck without pain, was sleeping through the night better, all with just things very small, very simple, didn't take much time, no yoga pants needed. Dean Key is another one of my drivers. He actually took my 90-day program that I run once a year, and he was able to drop 40 pounds. He was diabetic, was on 2 medications, got off one of them, was on track to get off the second. Like I said, these are never our goals. These are the side effects to learning how to read a label, understanding what you're putting in your mouth, drinking more water, trying to promote better sleep, getting out and being active and mobile. This isn't working out. This isn't planks and push-ups. This isn't yoga, warrior 2. This is just finding gaps and where to improve the quality of your life as a driver. These are some of the results that you get.
And I guess, so what is the model today, the business? So you mentioned you have these 90-day programs. Like, talk to me about how people engage with you. Like, so this isn't through corporate. It can be, I guess, but like largely, what does the path look like? I'm a driver. I want to work with Hope. What do I do?
Yeah, you have a couple options. So you just want to test the waters and see what she's doing. Just follow me on social. You can see videos. You can, learn about what we're doing, try some of these moves. But really that next step, you can join our platform. We have an app version as well. $7.99 a month, $85 for the year, $85 for the year. I want this to be a Netflix decision. I want drivers to never have to choose, do I improve my health, or do I put food on my family's table? Do I put fuel in my tank? I never want health to have to be on the docket for choice. I know what that feels like, and it sucks. It sucks when you feel like you have to choose. And so that's the first thing. And when they come in and they join our platform, it's called the Lifestyle Jumpstart Mother Trucker Yoga membership app and platform, because that's what it is. It's a jumpstart to your life. You can engage immediately with our short 3 to 5 minute videos that are all filmed in the driver's seat of a truck, the sleeper, right outside the rig. We do have some home-based workouts, but we recognize that that's like a bonus. Most drivers don't start there. And showing you what you can do the moment you have just a few minutes of downtime. And it's an education as much as it is an experience. So that's one route. And then usually once a year, I run a live 90-day program. It's called Your Wellness Pit Stop, where I'm live with drivers every single day, teaching them on a little bit of a bigger chunked concept. Every week we have a theme, and I really just take you through all aspects of health. But one of the things, again, drivers often recognize is it's not what mainstream is doing. This isn't a follow this diet or else. This isn't like you better work out like the 75 hard. Like this isn't that approach. This is a practical approach to health and wellness that you can maintain and sustain for your entire life. And so that's really that 90-day program. And those are my two core programs that I really offer for drivers. And now, like I said, we do consulting for fleets if they choose to. I work with some CDL schools. I actually came up with a 4-week training that drivers can take. They get a certificate of completion to show basic entry competency in health and wellness, because in the last 6 years, I've recognized one of the number one reasons why drivers leave the industry isn't because they don't like trucking. It isn't because they can't back up their truck or they don't like their broker or it's just hard. It's because they can't handle the lifestyle. And that's fixable with the right tools and the right information, and getting that information to them at the right time. They can come in equipped to be like, I can handle this. I can do this. And I believe that schooling for trucking is missing a big piece to that. We pride ourselves in saying, no, we have the best technology for trucks and ELDs and all this stuff. And that's cool and great. But if your drivers are leaving 6 weeks to 6 months into their career, that turnover is hurting not just the companies, it's hurting our entire country. And we can fix that. And there's so many people still that aren't getting that concept. And that is what I am trying to change.
So as we're talking about health, and I think it's something that, and you mentioned this earlier, that's something that you would struggle with, and I on this podcast openly mentioned that I do as well, and that's mental health. So how do you think about that, or do you even, does that play a part in your product or your methodologies?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. A big part of what makes Mother Trucker Yoga different from all the other stuff out there in the trucking space is the emphasis on mental wellness, breathing, stress relief, sleep, meditation. All of these things play into what it is that we're trying to teach drivers. But I recognize that that's not always the entry point for people, because
Right.
It's big and scary, because people don't want to, oh, I can't meditate. I got to do this first. And it's like, we have to break this down into more of a digestible format. And for me, that's the movement piece. Like just doing, weight presses and bicep curls and all that stuff. And that's cool. I go to the gym, I do that stuff too. But if there's a meditative factor to it, if you use your breathing, if you focus your mind, you're going to get 1,000 times more out of the exercise than you were previously. And I really focus on merging those two components. And what I've discovered from the drivers that I've been able to work with is that many of them are very receptive to that. Once you build relationships, a lot of them are mentally struggling. They're stressed, they're anxious, they're depressed, they're lonely, and they want to feel good. And the physical part is only one piece to wellness and fitness. And I don't care how big your biceps are. If you're not right up here in that head of yours, that's not going to help you. I believe the physical is a representation and an execution of how you feel internally. Like I love exercise, movement, yoga, because I know how mentally it affects me. I'm addicted to that feeling good piece, where previously in my life, I grew up struggling with addiction. And one of the things that I recognize, and this is where I think Mother Trucker Yoga's approach is a little bit different, is I recognize that I was using all of those other things to avoid feeling, to avoid having to deal with life, to avoid having to face myself. And yoga taught me this valuable lesson of slowing down, breathing, being still, and noticing that those feelings I'm feeling actually pass. And when they do, and I can work through that, there's a whole nother life open up to you. And a lot of the drivers that I've worked with have this hard exterior, and they're just protecting themselves from not having to deal with why they feel like that in the first place. And I don't want to get all woo-woo on people listening, but this is where fitness is such an integral part in mental health. I believe that a big part of our mental health epidemic right now in our country is actually a movement epidemic. We are, how do I say this? We are more sedentary in our country now than we ever have before. Isn't that an interesting parallel to the mental health crisis and epidemic that we're faced with? I can't help but think that the two are connected, that when we get moving more, science has proved this, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, like oxygen, all boost in the body. Cortisol levels drop, our metabolism rises, we burn more calories. All this stuff happens through the M vitamin, movement. And why aren't we prescribing it more? Now look at the lifestyle drivers live. Sitting, more sitting, standing around, more standing around, isolated, alone, all by themselves. No wonder we have a huge mental health issue in the trucking industry. What I'm prescribing, and I'm not a doctor, I'm a college dropout. And I'm just, someone that has lived this and experienced this and helped thousands of people over the last 20 years improve their health and wellness with small, simple changes.
Yeah, so disclaimer, this is not medical advice.
This is not medical advice at all. This is not. But what I'm prescribing is movement, is get your body moving in the simplistic most of ways. Just live a more active lifestyle. And that does not mean run a marathon. That does not mean go to the gym. Those are bonus things. What I'm trying to teach drivers is how to add more movement into their everyday life. You're sitting in traffic, I'm going to show you some pelvic tilting to help reduce back pain. You're filling up with fuel, I'm going to show you a hamstring stretch to get rid of sciatica. You have 5 minutes where you're talking with your spouse at night before you go to bed. Let's walk in place and do some like knee-high stepping to increase our blood flow in our body and work our lower abdomen. Laying in bed, waiting to have to get up because you have a few more minutes, I'm going to show you how to do a cobra to stretch your back and open your chest. I'll show you some core work that you can do while walking around doing your pre-trip check that looks like you're just checking out your truck. Like, this is lifestyle health and movement that, quite frankly, drivers don't have to be the only ones to do. It just so happens that that's who I'm talking to.
Yeah, you kind of raised the point. I think it's one of the things that probably makes your brand, I think, very interesting and appears somewhat counterintuitive, is that you reference the maybe the perceived persona or real persona perception of the drivers and what kind of community demographic, like how that kind of would look. And then you kind of throw the word yoga in there. It's like these two these don't belong together. But you made an interesting point, and I kind of brought the mental health part up because it feels similar in a way as well, where you'd say, I think of, and this is just, I'm 43 almost. And so I think of like my parents' generation, and, there's just the admission, the understanding, the knowledge around mental health is very, very, very limited. And I'm not suggesting that drivers are all of that age. It's more to say that there is a large sort of cohort of the population who still doesn't really accept it, want to acknowledge it, want to deal with it. Pardon me? It's taboo. Exactly. And so it's my sort of prejudice, if you will, towards that community would suggest that would be a pretty non-receptive group. But you said something interesting in that you don't start there necessarily, because most people don't want to be hit with that right away. And no matter, I don't care if you drive a truck or you run a bank, you don't want to start there. And so I like this idea of it is about movement. It is about creating some dopamine, really, and then being open and receptive to maybe the next step, which is, it sounds like a lot more gentle nudging than being thrown down a flight of stairs, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I recognize that encouragement and empowerment that happens when you feel like you've done something right. As someone that has tried to get into recovery, and I've referenced this because this is really a lot of who I am and how I do what I do, because I know what the bottom feels like. I know what dirt in your face feels like. I know what just wanting to be done with life feels like. And I never want anyone to ever have to experience that. And so I'm constantly reminded of like, what did you do, Hope, to go from this to like this, and then this, and then this. And so I'm always like thinking that process, because I think that that's a process many of us are trying to go through. And this idea of yoga is still kind of like weird to some people. And I always joke when people are like, yoga, I'm like, don't worry, no yoga pants are needed. No yoga mat. People look at our website and be like, I want to buy a yoga mat. And I'm like, you don't need one. And they're like, what? And I'm like, there's no warrior twos. Like, it's the concepts of yoga. It's what you learn through yoga. It's the patience and persistence and the introspection and the movement. And yes, there are things that I'll teach you that feel and look like yoga, but that comes second. And it's refreshing, I think, for many people that it's like, oh, this isn't what I thought. And I love that compliment. And I think this comes with experience. I have owned a business for over 20 years, Justin. I have been teaching health and wellness and fitness and movement for over 20 years. And with that comes experience and knowledge. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to the people that are out there like, oh, I'm going to start this program and I'm going to teach people this. And I'm like, cool, that's great. But just know that when people ask how I got to where I am, this isn't just like something I woke up one day and yes, the mother trucker yoga language came out of my mouth as a joke, but the knowledge and expertise and all of the mistakes I had made previously all fed into building this and creating this. And I'm super proud of it. But that knowledge and experience for entrepreneurs, you know who you are and you're reinventing yourself and you're putting out that next great product, you get to leverage the years of experience prior to that. And I think I fine-tuned that ability to really understand my customer who happens to be a truck driver, and I am all in on them. I think that's one thing that I would like to think is one of my best qualities is my authenticity and loyalty to the person that I am serving, because I want them to be their best so deeply. And I think that there are a lot of business owners out there today that are wanting the quick buck, that are wanting just to jump on a bandwagon because they see it's easy street. And we see that out there. Everyone wants to become an entrepreneur. But I think that there's a skill set that comes with that. And you also have to have something to serve people. And a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs out there right now are missing that really important part. And that's the actual thing. And I don't say that to discount people, but I say if you're out there and your business is not working, maybe it's not the right one to be working on. What are you good at? What are you passionate about? What's just like your core of you? And what I do in Mother Trucker Yoga, this is all of me, Justin. This is everything that I have ever wanted to do and have put money and time and energy into. This is like my calling. And if you would have asked me 10 years ago, trucking, I would have been like, what? But it was delivered in a package that I get to do everything I'm good at. And I love showing up for drivers every single day. I love having conversations with people like you to showcase how it is you can take a concept or a joke for that matter and build it into something that can be quite frankly revolutionary and transformative to an industry with the right commitment and with the right willingness to continue to push forward.
There's no possible way that anybody's listening to this could question the passion that you just described and the authenticity in which that comes. You're like channeling it. It's almost beyond you. You're just the vessel, and it's just flowing through you, and it's incredibly inspiring. Your name Hope is perfect. That's that
is my name too, by the way. My name.
I wasn't gonna question it, but just in case you were. So because you're going to manifest whatever you want, clearly, what is happening what does the next 20 years look like for Hope and Mother Trucker, and where are you taking this thing?
Well, first things first on my docket, and we've been working on this for almost a year now, is we've expanded our product line. Our line is called Road Relief Wellness. And we have a wide variety of pain relief creams, massage guns. We actually have a patent pending trucker camo. This is our water bottles. They're going out into truck stops here in an expanded way in 2023. And we're really excited about it. We're gearing up July as our big release. And so that's on the docket. Again, serving drivers all around health and wellness, things that are natural, things that are high quality. Like I'm super excited about that. And again, another way for me to reach drivers and support them and let them know that they matter when it comes to health and wellness. And every driver should be able to walk into a truck stop and find the things that they want and that serve them and speak directly to them. And I'm really proud of that line. I'm really proud of what I've created. So that's one piece. I want to be in every truck stop across the country and beyond. That's a big goal for me. But the other piece is continuing to climb the ladder in the trucking space to be, people have called me one of the leaders or a leader in trucking health and wellness. I want to be the go-to. I want to be the person, the company that people in the transportation industry can go to. I'm not saying you have to use my products, but what I'm saying is, how is it that we should approach this for our drivers? Or what is it they want to know? I want them to be able to come to me and come to our company, come to our platforms and be like, wow, I definitely can do this. I can definitely be served, whether that's consulting, whether that's our programming, whatever that is. I want to make a name in the industry on a personal level. that I can look back at 20 years from now, 40 years from now, and say, I made a difference. I made a real difference in the industry.
I see no world where that doesn't happen. I would be concerned if I was trying to compete with you on that front, quite frankly. It is such a, it is again, this is such a privilege to talk to you today. The mission is so clear. And again, it's just, I can feel it coming. You're 1,000 miles away, but it feels like you're sitting right here with me. I will say too, for the audience who's listening and not watching, Hope had made reference earlier to the habit of brushing and flossing her teeth. She has excellent teeth. So this is she's living her she's living what she preaches here. The habit of teeth is they're great.
Everyone's given different assets in life, and I was given great teeth, and I take it very pridefully. So thank you for noticing.
Absolutely, I did. Yeah, you're quite welcome. So where can the world find you if they haven't already?
Absolutely. Mother Trucker Yoga. Go to any social platform. You're going to find us, mothertruckeryoga.com, and you can learn about what we're doing. You can inquire about our programming. If you want to work with us on a partnership or sponsorship level, hit me up and let me know. If you care about driver health and wellness and you recognize that healthy drivers on the road means a healthy, transformative industry that is going to be able to stick around for the long haul, I want to know about it. I want to work with you. I want to support you. But Mother Trucker Yoga across all platforms. And I cannot wait to see what this industry holds for me personally, but also what our drivers are capable of once they recognize that their health matters.
Hope, that was just downright inspiring. So thank you so much for spending that time with me and allowing me to just, bask in your glory. So thank you very much. Really well done. And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Justin. And thanks to everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to the audience again for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, or do whatever you do to acknowledge that we're out there. Thanks very much, and we'll see you soon.